The guy wins ball games. He does what it takes to win. He's not worried about stats. He's not trying to. He ain't worried about breaking the single season passing record. He's worried about wins, stacking W's, and that's what he means. That's all I care about. People that don't know football, they can get caught up in all them stats they want to.
Jeremiah Trotter Sr. on the Gun on One podcast. I asked the question at the beginning of the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on a Wednesday edition on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Back at the 2 o'clock hour, we talked about, is Jalen Hurts underrated? Have we not given this man enough credit? Since his freshman year of college to now, Jalen Hurts is 88-20 with 8 different coordinators in his ear. But as Jeremiah Trotter Sr. said, all he does is win ball games as the Eagles are back in the Super Bowl for the second time in the last 3 years. We'll get into all that and more right now with Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press. Of course, he covers the NFL, covered the Eagles for a long time here in Philadelphia. He is the AP senior NFL writer, and he joins us right now on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, welcome in. How you doing today?
Fantastic, Josh. Just getting ready for a trip to New Orleans.
At least it's not a long flight for you.
Yeah, that's true. It's a little bit better. I've been there a few times. I was there for the Eagles Saints playoff game. Remember the Reggie Bush hit by Sheldon Brown. Reggie Bush?
Yep.
Yeah, I was there then for that. Was not all impressed with the city. I think it's overrated, but that's beside the point.
Well, let's get to Jalen Hurts, because I want to ask you the question I've been asking throughout the day. Do we not give this guy enough credit? Because, we always get told all that matters is winning. All that matters is winning championships. Are you in a position to win championships? And, we criticize other quarterbacks. Phillip Rivers, Josh Allen, these guys never even got to a Super Bowl. And now Jalen Hurts has done something that has not been done, Rob Maaddi, since Jim Kelly. He lost his first Super Bowl, and he got back.
He's a little bit as the opposite of New Orleans, Josh. He's underrated. He's not overrated. I think Jalen Hurts is a guy who has not gotten the respect that he deserves across the league, maybe even in the city of Philadelphia. As you played, was that Jeremiah Trotter, Josh, who said all he does is win?
Yeah, Trotter Sr.
Trotter Sr., yeah. And Nick Sirianni said it, too, earlier in the week at his news conference. That's all he does is win. That's all Nick does is win. This is a guy who sometimes it doesn't look pretty. Sometimes it's a little ugly in the statistical department because it's 131 yards passing or 128. He put up some nice numbers against Washington, but he gets the job done. And I've been impressed lately by his ability to recognize defensive calls and be able to get the team into the right position and the right play call on offense. And I think he stepped it up later in the season, become more comfortable in his first year where that's his primary responsibility. It's not Jason Kelce under center identifying everything on the line. And it may have taken a little bit of time, and we've talked about this quite often. They didn't need him to throw for 250, 300 week in and week out. They've had Saquon Barkley having an extremely special season, one of the best seasons we'll ever see. And they haven't had to rely on Jalen pulling it out for them. And when they do, he's come through against the Steelers. And last week, he had a great game against the Commanders. He takes care of the football. There was that period of time last year into a few games this year where the turnovers had become a problem. They're not a problem anymore, but people may want to label him as a game manager. I don't think that fits with Jalen because he can do so much with his legs that affects the game, that impacts the way other teams have to defend the Eagles. And that, to me, takes him into that category of top-notch quarterbacks, guys that you win because of, not just guys that you win along with, just by having, right? Which some quarterbacks have been in the past. He's not that guy, and he may not have had those too many games this year where it was beautiful passing statistics and all, but he can do that. He can get the job. There was a throw last week, Josh, to AJ. I can't remember if it was a fourth down or what down, but it was a beautiful pass. It might have been a fourth down pass to AJ that was just in stride, perfect placement, everything about it. So, yeah, I think Jalen is a guy who's a little bit underrated nationally and perhaps even so in the city.
What does it also say to you, Rob? And I'm not overtly trying to suggest anything, but I'm genuinely asking this. You know, Sirianni drops a curse word talking about Jalen Hurts at his press conference. Darius Slay goes on his Big Play Slay podcast, drops it, a curse-laden rant about how great Jalen Hurts is. Other guys in the locker room are talking about how they think, people are idiots for not giving this guy credit. What does it say to you that the people who are with Jalen every day are being, shall we call it, so aggressive in their position on him?
Passion. They're passionate about defending this guy. They feel strongly about what he means to them, his leadership ability, which was questioned last year, and obviously his performance on the field. And they want to defend him, and they want to defend him vociferously, and they're doing that, and they're doing it the best way that they know how. And I think that's a reflection on Jalen and what he means to the team, what he means to the guys in that locker room, that they're tired of it. They're tired of hearing the knocks against Jalen Hurts because you hear them. And I know Nick Sirianni alluded to that too as well at his news conference. There's consistently you've heard people knocking Jalen. You've heard people say, well, and the coach too, well, this is a great team except they can't win because of that coach. Or if they had a different quarterback they can get to and win a Super Bowl. Well, here they are in a Super Bowl, second time in 3 years with this coach, with this quarterback, and in position to win it and dethrone the two-time defending champs who are trying to three-peat for the first time in NFL history. So it's right there for them. Everything is right there in front of the Eagles, and I think if they play their game, they should win it. If they play their game, don't turn the ball over, control the clock, run the ball effectively, get some big plays in the air, and play that defense, opportunistic defense that's been creating a lot of turnovers lately, they have a real shot, as good of a chance as anybody to beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
Talking with Rob Maaddi, AP senior NFL writer here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash on a Wednesday. Rob, you mentioned about the matchup with the Chiefs. Is there something about Kansas City? Because they're not perfect. They're not immortal. They're not some, impossible team to beat. Is there a flaw in the Chiefs that you think the Eagles are equipped to take advantage of?
Wow, flaw in a team that really lost only one game this year that they tried, that they didn't play their backups in. They've been susceptible, Josh, at times in the secondary during the course of the season. They've been at points, obviously, earlier in the year, inconsistent offensively, and but all of that goes out the window because you have Patrick Mahomes. So I don't care how inconsistent they've been offensively, up and down. They still got Patrick Mahomes. They still got Travis Kelce. DeAndre Hopkins is there. Hollywood Brown has come back. Kareem Hunt's making plays. Isaiah Pacheco's back. Like, you're getting them loaded. Now, the left tackle situation with Joe Thuney, who's an all-pro left guard going out. He's played it, and he's played decent out there. That's an opportunity to attack them from a defensive standpoint against a guy he's out of position. It's not his best spot to play. And if the Eagles can, you're not going to get to Mahomes enough, but if you can impact the game by harassing him, getting to him, hey, the only Super Bowl he ever lost, he was getting knocked around quite a bit by the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers defense did a tremendous job in that 31-9 win way back in the COVID Super Bowl. and any quarterback can look mortal if you're harassing them, if you're knocking them around, if you're pressuring him, if you're doing everything you can to make his life miserable. We saw the Giants do that twice to Tom Brady in Super Bowls, and that's why they won those games. So I think that's one flaw or one area. I wouldn't want to call it a flaw because you have an all-pro playing a little bit out of position and still doing a great job. But I think that's one area where the Eagles can attack that offense. And then from the opposite standpoint, just trying to run the football not at Chris Jones. And they've had success running the football against everybody. So I still think they're going to have success running the football no matter what. I don't care who's playing defense. I don't care if it's the 85 Bears.
Rob, your guy RG3 was on your second favorite show, Up in Adams, and he talked about how he thinks that America is going to be rooting for Saquon Barkley because everybody can identify with the idea of not being your best in one situation while being worth more and being better in a better environment. Is Robert Griffin III right? Will Saquon be someone for America to root for in Super Bowl 59?
I think the Eagles are America's team in Super Bowl 59. I'm actually going to write that tomorrow. I'm writing on how the Eagles are going to be. They're the new America's team, especially since the Cowboys haven't been to a Super Bowl in, what is it now, 29 years?
Rob,
and the Eagles.
Rob, listen, every NFC team has now been to the NFC Championship game since the last time the Cowboys were in an NFC Championship game in 1996.
That's sad for Dallas, and that's unfortunate for the Cowboys in their situation. But I think the overwhelming majority of fans that are casual fans who are going to be watching the game are rooting for the Eagles, which is a strange twist given Eagles fans' history and all of that. But people are tired of the Chiefs. Obviously, there's a segment of folks who are tired of the Chiefs getting more calls than any other team. And if you look at the numbers, it indicates that they are the recipients or the beneficiaries of more calls in certain aspects. And they may be right calls. They just happen to benefit from them more often than others. So I think there's people. And then, of course, there's people who don't want to see Taylor Swift on TV 1,000 times during a game. So I think for all of those reasons, you add it up, the Eagles are an unlikely popular team going into, it's hard to think of folks around the country rooting for the Eagles. Nobody, right? It goes all against the nobody likes us and we don't care, or however that song goes.
Right.
They're gonna have to go for a different rallying cry because everybody does like you because they don't like the Chiefs and they want the Eagles to win.
It's funny you put it that way as well because, it is unusual for people to want to root for the Philadelphia Eagles, but you are 100% right. Whether that you have the anti-Taylor Swift people, whether you have the people who are just, mad at Patrick or Brittany Mahomes for whatever, fill in the blank on social media people, right? Whatever.
I forgot about that angle. There's the political angle.
Yes.
Too.
Yes.
Completely forgot about that. Some people don't like Patrick and Brittany because they were on one side of the political aisle, and then there's opposite Taylor. Have we seen them in a suite together since that moment?
Yes, they were hugging.
Have been together. Brittany and Taylor have been in a suite again.
Oh, they were hugging.
Okay. I don't pay close enough attention to the suite shots.
You're actually trying to do your job. I know. I just
yeah. I know Mama Kelsey was in the suite too. So yeah. Mama Kelsey was in there. I didn't know if Brittany was there or she was, because she just had a baby too. Brittany just had a.
Well, I mean, she had a baby, and 2 weeks later she's at the playoff game, and everyone's like, "Wait, what's going on here?"
I hope the baby wasn't there at 2 weeks old. Maybe the other two, but everybody does their own.
Well, my point is that there's a ton of reasons for people to root against the Chiefs, but one name that nobody seems to dislike, Rob, even though he can't get any head coaching opportunities again so far, that is Steve Spagnuolo. And This guy is having an incredible career. In fact, every time Andy Reid has been in a Super Bowl, Rob Maaddi, Steve Spagnuolo has been on his coaching staff. So talk to the audience about what makes Spags special.
You can go back to being the coordinator who gave the Patriots fits in the Super Bowl when he was with the Giants. This is a guy who can out-scheme anybody. He can out-scheme I don't care who it is on the offensive side. If you're a defensive coach who can make life miserable for Tom Brady and beat him, then you've already earned all of the kudos and the accolades you need. And then he continues to do it. And I am surprised that he hasn't gotten a head coaching opportunity. And I wonder what that's all about, too, because here's a guy who he did get it for a time with the Rams, didn't work out, and then had success again, even more success, wins even more Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator. Yet you continue to see other guys get first coaching jobs and second coaching opportunities, but not Steve Spagnuolo. And he and Andy have the same agent in Bob Lamont. Bob Lamont continues to send guys to the Super Bowl as an agent. I think it's like 7 or 8 years in a row, and now he's got another shot to win one. But Spags is a guy who is just, he can out-scheme anybody. He's not afraid to bring everyone at you. You saw, look at what he did to Josh Allen in the AFC title game in that crucial play. Josh Allen was completely unprepared for the blitz that came at him from the corner. Hadn't seen it, or either hadn't seen it or just wasn't ready for it and couldn't determine it, couldn't figure it out. But it was the key play at the end of the game. Now, Dalton Kincaid could have maybe made the catch. It was a tough attempt and all of that stuff, but that's what he does. You got guys like Brady, guys like Josh Allen, quarterbacks all across the board, whether it was the Eagles a couple years ago, Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan, and the 49ers last year. They've all had their issues going up against the Steve Spagnuolo defense. And I don't care if he doesn't get a head coaching opportunity. If he wins another Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator, and maybe he doesn't even need to, he should have consideration for being in a Pro Football Hall of Fame at some point in his career when it's all said and done.
Couple more for AP senior NFL writer Rob Maaddi at Rob Maaddi on the Twitter X platform. Joining us here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash. Rob, we mentioned about the head coach. There is one job still open, that being the New Orleans Saints. And as of right now, it looks like Kellen Moore is, the only candidate right now, with Mike McCarthy pulling his name out of the conversation. What is your take on the potential Kellen Moore and Saints marriage?
Yeah, it certainly looks like it's heading that direction, because if they wanted Mike McCarthy, they would have brought him in already, and he pulled out of it last night. And I wonder how much of that was the Saints weren't willing to give him what he requires as a proven Super Bowl champion head coach, and maybe think that they can get other guys to do the job for a whole lot cheaper. But if they were going to go Mike Kafka or Anthony Weaver or even Darren Rizzi, who was their interim, they could do it, and they could do it now. So the fact that there's a little bit, and Kellen Moore only just interviewed on Monday in person, his second interview. So if this goes into the weekend and the Saints don't hire a head coach other than Kellen Moore, then it's going to wait a whole other week, because it's most likely Kellen Moore's the guy. And every indication is that they're going to wait it out, and that's the direction they're going to go in, which means Jalen Hurts next year is going to have to go and play with another offensive coordinator.
But he's 88-20 through all of these different coordinators, Rob, in his football life. How does a guy keep winning when he keeps having different coaches?
Go back to the big Sirianni. He's a winner statement. That's what he is, man. He just wins. He finds ways to win. He continues to play at his best, no matter who's coaching him up. And even last year, when they had a little bit of a tough situation with Brian Johnson, the lifetime friend of the Hurts family, and he was able to, he got that job and just didn't have that much success doing it. He finds ways. he gets it done. And I wouldn't be overly concerned next year over who it is as the offensive coordinator. I think Jalen's as long as you got Saquon Barkley and you got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and that offensive line that's tremendous, he's going to be able to be in a position to go out there and have success.
Rob, before I let you go, and this is a controversial opinion I have put out there, but I'm sure if you disagree with me, just letting you know you won't be the only one. I have made the comment multiple times that if Kellen Moore does leave, I don't think you're losing that much, Rob, because you were 7th in scoring last year. You were 7th again this year. The Eagles had the same number of passing touchdowns last year and this year as a team. I don't think Kellen Moore was that much of the upgrade as it was adding Saquon Barkley this offseason. And I just feel like Philadelphia, if they're smart and Howie keeps doing Howie things, they will keep being a very good offense.
It's a good point in that Kellen Moore, the biggest difference for the Eagles this year, beyond Kellen being the OC, is the addition of an all-world running back, one of the best players having one of the greatest seasons. And how much of that is Kellen Moore's scheme, getting him, like, I see Saquon Barkley running 50, 55 yards, 60 yards for a touchdown, untouched, getting into that second level completely, like a burst of speed. That's Saquon Barkley's talent and ability. And, of course, then you can argue, well, he couldn't do that with the Giants as often as he's doing it with the Eagles. Well, the Giants didn't have the offensive line that Philly has.
Yep.
5 guys who are just exceptional, probably the best offensive line in the NFL. They didn't have Jalen Hurts, who's a threat as a runner at quarterback. They had Daniel Jones, and they certainly didn't have the guys outside, the wide receivers and the tight end that defenses had to be concerned about. So you factor all that in, still going to have that next year. I don't care who's calling plays. You still should have success with those players. I don't think there's going to be a massive drop-off or a step back in Saquon Barkley. Obviously, getting 2,000 yards back-to-back years has never been done, and that's going to be extremely difficult. But, hey, if you get 1,600 and you get 700 from somebody else, you're doing just fine.
He's Rob Maaddi. Give him a follow over on the Twitter X platform at Rob Maaddi. Check out all of his coverage of the NFL at apnews.org. And, of course, he is the co-host of Faith on the Field, heard Saturday and Sunday mornings right here on 97.3 ESPN. And I'm sure, Rob, you are going to be incredibly busy next week at Radio Row down in New Orleans. So safe travels. Take care of yourself, and we'll talk soon.
You got it, Josh. Appreciate it. Keep up the great work.